Welcome to Truth, Money, and Freedom, where we discuss everything about truth, money, and freedom with your host, Timmy Chonga, coming to you from our Discord server, also named Truth, Money, and Freedom. An invite to our Discord platform is linked below in the description for anyone to join in on the conversation. Today, December 14th, 2018, we welcome Ellie, 1978, and I Am Vessel to a roundtable discussion about QAnon. Today, I thought we would go ahead and talk about QAnon, gang, and my thoughts on QAnon. And basically, let's just have a little bit of critical thinking going on at this discussion. Try and see if we can disassemble what Q is, how Q operates, and what Q is accomplishing. And we can actually start from the big part and work our way backwards, which is QAnon, quote unquote QAnon, Q, whoever it is or he or she is a leaker. Would you guys agree with that statement that Q likes to be thought of as a leaker?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And
Yeah,
Ellie?
I'm not sure what he likes to be called. I did bring this up, pose this question before to myself and to others. I definitely think the platform and the information, the air quote drops, are forms of leaking because it is, intel from people that are in the know. So I think it does meet the definition of a leak. Yes.
Okay, gotcha. So that's my thoughts too. So whether okay, we haven't even covered in my estimation, we haven't even covered what kind of information we're getting yet. We've just kind of come to a general consensus that Q is thought of or wants to be thought of as a leaker leaking classified intelligence. So, now let's talk about that for a second. Do you guys remember when Trump came into office in January of 2017? And there was an actual leaker in the White House. Do you guys remember that?
I do, yes, and
Yeah,
Trump was being spied on as well.
Yep. He was upset about it, wasn't he? He was pretty angry about it, in
He,
fact.
very upset.
he left his abode in the Trump Tower for good and never returned to that specific living quarters again to do that kind of work. Anyhow,
Yep, and I even remember, and I'm sure you guys do too, he actually would fly down to Mar-a-Lago, Florida, which is one of his personal, properties, to actually have high-level meetings because of the leaking that was actually happening in the White House.
that is a fact.
Okay. Well, we've established a couple of things we think we know are true now. We've established that we think QAnon now is a leaker or wants to be thought of as a leaker, leaking classified intelligence. We do know that Trump has had to deal with a leaker before, and in order to deal with it until he fired enough people from his staff to get rid of the leaker, he was actually having state meetings literally in Mar a Lago. So we know Trump doesn't like leakers. And incidentally, American Man is coming in to join us. Give me just a moment. I didn't give him his due in the intro, but I would like to welcome American Man to the conversation. Hello, American Man.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, it's going good. We kind of started, I know you're just a tad late, but we just started recording literally a few moments ago.
All right.
So basically, I was just recapping real quick that we've pretty much come to a conclusion that Q or QAnon wants to be thought of as a leaker of classified intelligence, and we think that's what he's doing. We don't know, but we think. And also, Trump had to deal with leakers when he first went into the White House.
Right.
And then in order to accomplish this, he actually fired a lot of people on his staff, and during the process, he was having high-level meetings in Florida at his personal property down there in Mar-a-Lago. So we know what Trump does with leakers. He hates them and he gets rid of them very quickly, and he takes extreme measures to make sure that the information that he wants to keep private is kept private. And has any one of us heard of an instance where Trump was upset with any Q leaks.
Not that I can recollect.
Okay,
Not me either.
I can't think of any either.
I
And
like to think of Q as a far right conspiracy theory as
there,
well.
yeah, there you go. You see, that's where it goes too. Um, but since we know Trump isn't upset with the intel leaks, it's probably not good intel. And there's a name for that. Does anyone know what the name for that is? Disin-
Disinfo?
Disinfo merchant. That's correct.
Information.
That's correct. That's exactly what I believe we're getting from Q, is disinformation. And all it is, in my opinion, is a way to keep basically Trump's base together in the alternative right. That's all it is, in my opinion. Um,
Yep.
and
Agree.
and there's several, and once again, we could go into, and we will go into finer details. We won't keep this, going on forever. This discussion doesn't need to go on forever because actually everything's pretty easily covered. But the 4 dates missed. There's been 4 dates missed, and if any of you guys want to talk about that at all, you're welcome to.
Yeah, I would love to, but I don't remember what those are.
Yes,
So,
I'm aware that dates were missed, but as I don't, I get my Q news from one site, and they kind of just read it and leave it up to you they don't really lead you in any specific way. So I don't really know.
Okay, I'll let you know the
Well, I
four.
know there's
Go
the
ahead.
Hillary Clinton
I don't
prediction,
know the
the
date.
imminent arrest, the North
Right.
Korea Supreme Leader Kim Jong is a puppet ruler. And I don't know what the other one was.
Uh, the opening of classified um, um, indictments
Yes.
Ah, yep.
and court hearings that were coming immediately after the opening of the indictments.
Are you okay?
So basically, none of that has happened.
No, it
So
hasn't.
so so basically, we could say, well, he missed for he, she, it, whatever, IT, information, you know, artificial intelligence. I don't know what this thing is. In fact, there was a theory for a while there was an IT staff at the White House, which is ridiculous too. But
Yeah, I
um,
remember hearing that as well.
yep. So, but the dates are wrong. Nothing has happened, and basically Q is still being followed, um, and also speaks very cryptically. And I'd like to joke about the cryptics because I think that's really stupid. Number one, we established that Q wants to be thought of as a leaker. So basically, a leaker he is described as. And okay, so basically so we know that the leaks are probably, disinformation. I think we can all agree on this. Yet people rally behind Q. Not only do they rally behind Q, but they hold up signs at Trump rallies that Q is our favorite intel leaker. You can actually see these signs at Trump rallies. Have you guys seen this before?
Yep.
Okay. I've seen it too in videos.
Only on a few. Yep, only on videos.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Are you saying Q supporters at rallies?
Yes. Well, yes,
I'm
that's
sorry.
correct. Holding up signs supporting
Yes.
Q.
What do you feel about the um, and again, I can't point to a specific example, but there have been, I'll say, a few times where Trump allegedly um, acknowledged Q. Again, I can't think of specific examples, but I think there's been a handful of times where at least the QAnon um, people that decoded are involved with it, they have taken it to be a nod to Q. I believe an example would be misspellings in a tweet and something at a rally with someone either with a Q sign or Q T-shirt. Um, have you ever heard of that?
Yes, I have. There's been,
What do you think about that?
well, I think that Q has become a brand. that represents Trump. I think it's a legend, a legend in the making of nothing more than disinformation. So that's what I think is happening because Q likes, basically to quote unquote spread intel. And Trump doesn't seem to be worried about Q. And then on top of that, Trump basically does nothing to hunt down and stop Q from leaking data. So I think it's a new brand, just like his suits and his ties and his shoes and his liquor and his golf clubs. I think it's a new Trump brand, is what Q is. Your guys'
Yeah,
thoughts on this?
I would agree.
I mean, sure. Yeah, I would agree with that. That's a fair statement.
Okay.
Yeah, same here.
Okay.
I'd also
think-
like to put in Q has predicted Republican success in 2018 midterm elections. You guys remember that?
Yes.
And he claimed the Attorney General Jeff, what was it?
Sessions.
Yes, Jeff Sessions was involved with secret work of Trump, and that didn't get anywhere.
Oh, are you referring to the trust sessions? That
Yes.
was a big monster among QAnons, trust sessions,
Yeah.
and then, right. Yeah, that's pretty much all I know about it. And then did he fire? I know he recused himself back during Comey's trial, but I'm
Yeah, I
not.
believe he got
too
fired,
sure.
and there was I don't know what the name would be called. There was something among the Q community pretty much where everybody's just scatterbrained now,
Yep.
not
So,
knowing who he is, like you're saying.
yeah.
It is very frustrating, even within the community. People get very, very frustrated and impatient, if you want to use that word.
Well, that's another
Um,
thing. Go ahead.
a retort to that. Sorry, TC. Let me just say, a retort to that I hear a lot is that it takes time, to drain the swamp or to for this stuff. It takes time. I'm just letting you know that that's something that I hear often when challenged about, well, what about this? Why didn't this happen? Or why isn't it going fast? Or what have you? Most of the times, the majority of the time, the response to that is, well, it takes a long time. We have to be patient and trust the plan.
You're right.
Oh, how about
I just wanted to throw that in
it's
there.
because of Congress?
Yep. We're hearing that right now about the wall. Congress is stopping the wall. Well, I mean, we could
It's
get into
because of
that.
Congress.
Yeah, it's basically let's try and keep it as closely to Q as possible rather than move
Right.
on to
Sorry.
Trump's other initiatives. But I agree with you, Al. I actually agree with your statement that there is at least for the time being a large community of people saying it's going to take time to drain this swamp because it's so massive. But also, I would say also that Trump actually filled the swamp when he came to the White House. He brought in 6 Goldman Sachs people to sit in his cabinet, including Steve Mnuchin, to be over, the Treasury, and he is a very corrupt man. He's been rigging gold and silver, stock markets, and the bond markets for 20 years from the IT room. And so Trump himself actually brought some more swamp creatures with him when he went in. So
Yeah, he did.
and so it makes it harder for him to drain the swamp when he keeps throwing more creatures in it. Um, but but as far as Q goes, it's not even about draining the swamp. It seems like it's surrounding Russian probe and pedophilia. That's what Q seems to
Exactly.
center
He
most
looks
posts around.
good.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are things the American people, I think, they quote unquote care about. The Russian probe, though, I'm not even sure where that stands anymore because Q keeps saying that it's garbage, it's junk, and I tend to believe that actually because they have never produced a scintilla of evidence to the American people yet. So
And they never will.
I don't think they will either. And in fact, I don't think Hillary's going to jail either. I don't think
No,
that-
she's
No,
not.
I do not either. And Q keeps on insisting that it was Clinton and Obama who were corrupted by Putin.
correct.
Alright.
So, so basically, we can agree, I think, pretty strongly on the fact that if there is collusion, basically between major players to corrupt an election, it shouldn't take 2 years to decide this. And yet it's still going on to this day. And the investigation still goes on. There's no evidence that's ever been released. There's been no prosecutions on this at all, none. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, there hasn't been any real questioning being done. But then again,
On none of them.
yeah, and we're talking
I
about
think
all.
that,
Go ahead.
yeah, I think that is an interesting point. How you have not heard in any media at all, you know, or even in writing in journalism, you don't hear about Q at all. It's kind of something that just isn't discussed. I mean, even with people, a great deal of people holding the Q signs and reporters there, seeing it, visibly seeing it, and not commenting on it and not giving it any attention at all. I don't know how that plays into it all or what that, the implications of that, I can guess, but it's just something that does stand out as odd.
Yeah, and I think it's fair point. It's something that we can speculate on, and I think we can speculate it on, basically on a very level playing field. So none of the things that Q talked about has happened yet. In fact, a lot of the information.
Especially,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, especially on the arrest.
Yep.
We've heard about Clinton, Obama, Podesta, McCain.
Hmm.
I'm sure there's several more, and nothing's been said about anything.
Right.
What about this story that Q is JFK Jr.? He's not dead. He didn't really die in that plane crash. That's Q. What about that phenomenon?
Yeah. Well, that's just more. Basically, that's window dressing for the public. Let's guess who Q is rather than let's judge him by the information he, she, it is bringing forward. So
Yeah.
I would say that trying to guess who Q is completely irrelevant at this point now that we've figured out that it's a disinformation campaign. So, basically, I would say that, for instance, I know people said it was Trump. So I
I
don't.
have heard that too.
You cut out there. I missed. All I heard was Trump. What did you say? I'm sorry. I'm stationary. I don't know why you cut out, but
Okay, gotcha. Well, basically, I was saying that it looks like, basically the disinformation campaign continues when it comes to conjecture on who Q is, rather than the solid information being provided. Now,
Right.
and American Man.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to mute your mic real quick because we're getting an enormous amount of background noise from you. I'm sorry, dude.
All right.
Okay. So, so basically, I think we've come to, a pretty good solid foundation that we're getting disinformation. It's clear that they want to be thought of as an intel. Um, it's a brand, as far as we can tell, because people are at Trump rallies holding up signs about Q and rallying Q for actually providing intel to the people, which it's not. Trump doesn't even acknowledge the signs, acknowledge anything having to do with it, apart from that one mention, at a convention, that famous story with that one gal who mentioned Q to Trump.
did you hear about the Trump Towers in Chicago 2 days ago? The gingerbread elevator.
I did not.
Yeah, they're saying that was a nod to Q because there was stockings hanging inside the elevator. The whole elevator was made out of gingerbread. I believe it's a hotel in Chicago, but it's definitely a building he owns. I could be mistaken about what the building is,
Hmm.
but they made a whole elevator, and the stockings, one had a T on it and the other had a Q.
Okay.
So well, I'm bringing it up because this is the type of, I'm doing air quotes here, nods and
Hmm.
that people speak of. You know, I was just bringing that up.
Yep, understood. And once
Uh,
again, that plays into
it's
our.
kind of a root.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it plays directly into the branding of Q as another Trump brand. It definitely plays into that. Merchandising Q. It's just a matter of time before there's Q coffee mugs and T-shirts and bumper stickers.
Right.
And the fact is, everyone thinks this Q person is spilling precious American intel on what Trump's plan is, but doesn't tell us the plan. Now let's talk about the cryptic notes and the cryptic messages. Okay, we know Q's out in the open. It's talked about ad nauseum in the alt media. Um, and people literally spend an enormous amount of time making YouTube videos. For instance, I love Sean at SGT Report, but man, oh man, I mean, he really, really swallowed the hook as far as Q's concerned, and so has Dave at X22. Um, but basically, the cryptic notes where they're sitting down and trying to figure out what Q is trying to say. Now, if it were that easy to figure out what Q was saying, once again, Trump would have made sure Q was shut up, correct? I mean, based on what he did when he actually had leaks in the White House.
Right. If you're leaking true information, I mean, he would have seen that and shut it down immediately. I would.
Yep. Go ahead, Al. Did you have something?
No, I'm very, very sorry. My husband rang my phone, and when I didn't answer it, but
Okay, gotcha.
I lost sound for a moment.
Okay, understood.
I apologize.
Okay, no problem. So, once again, continuing along those lines, we have cryptic messages that are very easy to decrypt. It doesn't take a rocket scientist. And now, some of the latest stuff I'd like to get into that a lot of people are attributing to Q, which is the death of George H.W. Bush and the death of Senator John McCain. Both of them were
Yeah.
supposed to be executions based on military tribunals that were held in secret. Yet these men were knocking on death's door already. I mean, they were literally 1 foot in the grave. And so we're supposed to believe that the few weeks or a month they had left to live was cut short because they went through a military tribunal. They were found guilty, and they agreed. They plea bargained to be put to death as long as their legacy remained, and no one was told about the quote-unquote crimes they had committed against humanity or treason against the United States. I find that very, very disturbing, but I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are on this.
Um, well, what you want to field that one first, Vessel?
I don't really know where to go with it.
Yep, because
Um,
uh,
I
Uh,
you know I would I mean, if we're speaking of Q,
yes, we are.
um, I don't think that Q would be responsible for that if it happened. I don't really think that that would be of air quotes again Q's doing. However, I do remember the line of questioning from Lindsey Graham to Kavanaugh in the um, hearing for Kavanaugh. You know, the Christine Blasey Ford's hearing, and he was specifically asking Kavanaugh about military tribunals and asked him to differentiate for people what the differences were. And he spent all of his time, Senator Lindsey Graham, on this subject. Um, I don't know. I I don't know. I got to be honest with you. Not so much Bush, but when I heard that, and I don't even believe I heard that from Q. In fact, I know I didn't about No Name McCain. Um, I, I don't know what to believe, but I thought that maybe that could be plausible. Again, not by Q's doing, but I did think that that could have been the case with McCain. Now, I don't know, but I have to be honest there and say that, again, nothing having to do with Q, just the military tribunal for McCain.
Yep, and basically those were both attributed to McCain because dates were given, specific dates that something would happen, which happened to be
God.
the death of McCain and the death of George H.W. Bush. Those dates were mentioned a month or two in advance to their deaths.
See, I didn't even realize that was the case, but I believe it.
Yep. So basically, reason I bring this up is because the only reason there's a conspiracy theory that there was a military tribunal that did take the lives of those two, basically in exchange for letting them keep their legacy of public service and just wonderful American patriots, which clearly they were not. Neither of them were. There's a lot of information out to the contrary on both of them. Um, but at any rate, Q is once again taking credit. Trust the plan. It's going forward. You're gonna hear about arrests. You're gonna hear about deaths. You're gonna hear about indictments being unsealed, and people are gonna be answering to Congress. They're gonna be in front of military tribunals. Those will be private, however. You won't know anything about it. But then Q will take credit for basically the death, not himself personally, but that he was correct on a military tribunal on a specific date. So we're getting that kind of information from Q.
Yes.
So, but the most important part is basically the tying into Russia and Clinton, where everything that has happened so far has been absolutely nothing, despite the fact Q was doing data dumps on this and giving dates that things would happen as far as Russia and Clinton, and has been wrong. So here is my theory, based on considering all the available evidence, that Q is literally just a disinformation merchant that's literally rallying the alt-right. That's all the purpose of Q is to keep the Trump supporters on the alt-right with Trump, despite the fact Trump has, number one, not done anything. He said we could go through the wall, we could go through draining the swamp, we can go through, Clinton not being in jail, and many other campaign promises that he has not met. But this way, they don't get upset with him because they're too busy trusting the plan and deciphering these cryptic messages that apparently all you need is like a decoder ring out of an Ovaltine jar, because everyone and their brother can actually decipher these things. Um, so
Yeah.
so so at any rate, I kind of just spilled my guts on that, and once again, I want to say one more thing, because this will be posted on YouTube, I know, on several channels, but I am not chastising Sean at SGT Report or Dave at X22 Report for anything other than have literally gone so far down this Q thing that they've lost sight of what the truth may be, is my opinion.
I
I'm
see
I
it
would,
dividing
I
people
would,
now.
correct. That
I
was
would,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, guys.
I was just going to say, yeah, Bessel's right. This is going to turn out to be a problem where we're going to, some of us are going to get angry, take it personal, and it's going to cause a lot of division amongst the truther YouTube and social media side as a whole.
Well, let's think about that critically for a moment. That's a good point, American man. Who gets divided in this?
The true people that are trying to push truth and, do what's right for America, make America great again.
Son of a gun. I hate it when you're right, Vessel. I just hate it when you're right. It's dividing up the people, literally the people that are angriest with government. The people that could
yeah,
probably make a change and
truth or,
make a difference are being
truth or
divided.
infighting.
Yep,
Truth or
Right.
infighting.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, I did a whole video, a PSA on truth or infighting,
Oh,
and
I want to bring up another point real quick, and it's probably not on the agenda, but there's something that I'm not sure if it was brought up earlier in the discussion or not, and that is how Q has morphed and changed from 4chan to 8chan to where he's
Yeah.
at now.
Exactly. All over social media, everywhere now. And when you start out on 4chan and 8chan, I mean, that's very encrypted for a reason. People want to talk amongst each other, not put that information out.
Right.
And then just blows up.
Exactly, and that was all planned. The idea, I think, behind this whole movement was to act like it was all hush hush and secret with only just a certain amount of people, and then it just blew up and just morphed out.
Yep, I agree.
I think there's
And
a
you-
very big trail that can be found about the whole QAnon deal, too, if a lot of people can do their research and have the time to.
Sure.
You do a
Yeah.
lot of web searching and, even post. I mean, it goes back a ways. There's always a trail. You just got to
Right.
follow it.
Yep.
There's
And
a
another
difference.
quick thing I wanted to
Go ahead.
mention, has anybody actually, I don't trust Wikipedia very much, but a lot of people like Wikipedia. Has anybody Wikipedia QAnon and what it says
No,
about
I
it?
haven't. No,
I'll do it
I
right
haven't.
now.
Even Wikipedia says he's a deep state conspiracy theory.
Well, in
Well,
all
there's truth to that, isn't there?
in all fairness, Wikipedia, WikiLeaks, all of that is.
It can all be edited.
It's kind of like the Urban Dictionary. Wikipedia is
Yes.
a crowd-sourced information, meaning anyone can put up a definition, or anyone at all. So,
Right.
yeah, people should not be using Wikipedia if they're trying to get any semblance of any truth. Wikipedia is not a place you go for any factual
See, but
information.
that's why I brought it up, because out of all the people that follow Q, you would think Wikipedia would talk very highly of them, but it's the opposite.
Yeah, I wasn't even aware. I'll take a look and look it up.
I
even
wasn't
know.
aware until just now, because, like I said, I don't really know a lot about Q, and I don't follow Q very often.
Yeah,
So
it's
I
a
had
good
to,
question.
get a little information on it and see what a few sites said, and yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow.
Yep, but divisions are being formed among some of the most prominent YouTubers. Um, I don't think it's any secret. SGT Report and X22 are very prominent alternative media news sources. And
Yes, and I actually was piggybacking off that before American Man made his point. I wanted to make the point that what you had said about Sean and
You guys
yeah,
hear me?
yes, there are channels, SGT Report, and other channels, that Serial Brain, other ones too, that are good people, and they have good channels, but they do. I guess the Q phenomenon is called a phenomenon for a reason. It's easy to get sucked in. And I think if it is in fact, whether it's disinformation or truth mixed with lies or whatever, it definitely is a distraction. And you cannot argue with that fact. Good or bad, whatever it is a distraction.
Sure it is. It really is. That's all it really is.
Divide and conquer, order out of chaos is their mantra. It always has been. So it doesn't surprise me that there is all this truth or infighting, and when we should, in fact, be, coming together to rise up against
Right.
this tyranny instead of fighting amongst one another. Critical thinking and these types of discussions are necessary.
would you say then
Yep, I agree.
that
Yes.
Q is a disinformation merchant that is actually serving to divide up the alternative media, that is actually taking away viewership from mainstream media?
Yes.
From where I stand, completely right now.
Okay.
Definitely.
Repeat the question again.
Well,
I want to be sure.
would you say that Q is a disinformation merchant that is serving to divide the alternative media, that is right now a direct threat to mainstream media by taking away viewership?
I would say whether that was the intention, or whether it's something less than that, or whether it's something way more sinister than that, that in fact that is what has happened. Yes.
Would you say then,
It
Hal, let me ask you the other another way. Would you say
Okay.
that Q is doing an effective job in discrediting alternative media?
Yes.
Okay. I think so too. What do you guys think?
I
Yep.
think that he's there to make media look bad. I think he's a disinformation agent. I think he's here to create division amongst the truther community. Any other future leaker make them look bad in it before they even get on the scene.
Absolutely correct, American man. I agree with you. That is precisely correct. It's the future. Now, L, you had made mention. What is the plan for infiltrating the alternative media? It's actually to make future leakers, future people that are truthers, look bad, in my opinion.
I like that.
Uh, yeah, I think that is what's happening. Yeah, no doubt.
Okay. And I think, basically we can go through, and like I said before we started this, we weren't going to go through the Bible of Q. We're not going to go through, 2,600 posts of Q and start deciphering with our decoder rings we got out of our Ovaltine jars. We're not going to do it. We're just not going to do it because we know now that 4 critical predictions made by Q, critical predictions, having to do with indictments, sealed indictments, and Clinton prosecution, Clinton cabal prosecution have all been missed. And of course, missed because of the Bush funeral. Well, so at any rate, apparently, it's not politically expedient to prosecute child molesters until an election's coming around. And don't worry, guys. We're going to handle all of this right before the 2020 election. Believe me, that's what Q's coming up with next.
Trust the plan.
Trust the
plan.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what I just said. Trust the plan. And while you trust that plan, watch America get destroyed from under, inside itself.
So, basically, then let's recap again. What it looks like or feels like, what it's shaping up to be, is that Q is a disinformation merchant that is not under concern by the White House. Because at Trump rallies, people are praising Q. There's no acknowledgement whatsoever, one way or the other. No one's trying to shut down Q. The posts keep coming. It even claims, he, whatever, claims that the death of George H.W. Bush and John McCain were because of military tribunals, yet they were literally 1 foot in the grave right before they were, quote unquote, terminated. And that this information serves most likely to hurt people in the future that want to come forward and be whistleblowers. Why should we believe them? We put a lot of emotional faith in Q, which turned out to be wrong and didn't actually get us anywhere. No swamp got drained. They gained more power. They entrenched more heavily than they ever did before, while Q was telling us, just sit down, relax. The white hats are working on it. Trust the plan. Because that's kind of the way I see it, gang.
Yeah, I do too.
I see it exactly that way myself.
I like how you just broke that down.
Good.
And so,
And,
Ellie,
I think we should do this more often.
Ellie,
Yes.
what do you think? What I just said here. Can you find any holes in my logic at all? Is there anything you'd like to add, or?
No, I can't find any holes in that.
So,
I'd like to challenge people to, find the holes in that.
yeah, I would too. And I'm not going to respond to, hey, listen, it takes a while to drain the swamp. Because the fact that Trump brought swamp creatures with him into Washington when he chastised Ted Cruz for having ties to Goldman Sachs. He chastised him publicly during his campaign, during debates even. During the presidential debates, he chastised Ted Cruz. And what did Trump do when he got the White House? He dragged 6 swamp creatures right from Goldman Sachs in New York right into Washington.
In there with him.
Yep. He was actually filling the swamp. So,
Still is, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, look at what happened with Jeff Sessions, but that's for another day.
Yep. Yeah, we're talking specifically about Q tonight, and I felt that it's probably time for the YouTube community to stop being divided over Q, and for some people to take a long, hard look at what we've gotten out of Q so far. And it doesn't matter if your last name is Sather, and I hate to bring up that guy's name, but he has been pushing Q all the time. I meant, like, Q's our savior. Q is not our savior, gang. Neither is Trump. And if we get
That's right.
divided on the level of the alternative media, we get divided here, the one place that's coalescing and coming together to recognize all the problems in America, to recognize all the corruption in Washington and how deep it goes, how deep the roots are in this corruption. And not to mention the ones that are most likely, growing fast enough to actually overcome resistance. We're about to get divided with this Q character, I think.
Yes,
Yeah, and it's not only
I-
on YouTube; it's all over every platform.
it is. It is all over social media. But there's one thing that people out there that are going to hear this video need to understand. We're not here. We're not here to make anybody angry or to divide any further, cause any more division. Yeah, we're here to show the truth, and the truth is nothing but a disinformation agent who's trying to cause more trouble amongst.
Amongst the truther movement, is that what you meant to say, American
Yes.
Man? Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
Okay, and
I will piggyback off of that and say that that is in fact what is happening. There's truther infighting and breakdowns, and when we all have a common goal, air quotes, the truther community, the common goal is, it's people's eyes stray from reaching that goal when there is this type of interference, we'll say, or whatever the case may be, and that's the worst thing for the truth movement or the truther community. That's the worst possible thing that could happen to it, is division, because we don't. That's exactly what we're fighting against, is
Right.
the divide and conquer and order out of chaos mantras. I mean, it goes against everything that truthers stand for, in my mind.
Right.
And I agree with that as well. And I think Q has been around long enough for us to know that he does definitely, whoever he, she, it is, definitely
Yeah.
does have access to the president. We know that much. But that's all we know. That was the only thing that really kind of checked out, in my
Right.
opinion. Now, I do realize that some dates were hit, like, for instance, the death of John McCain. The death of George H.W. Bush, those dates were hit for some reason. Didn't say specifically that it was the death of these particular men, but they were important dates, I believe, that Q had put forward. But once again, the funeral of George H.W. Bush, that was critical. That was December 5th. And that was the date that Q promised that heads were going to start rolling with, unsealing indictments and questioning. I believe Comey was who basically
Yeah.
everyone thought was going to be dealt with, in basically some sort of fashion, questioning by Congress, the Senate, something, which never did happen.
Right.
And of course, they've got the excuse now, well, it was the funeral, so it's got to be put off again.
It was too convenient.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm just not willing to give this Q phenomenon any latitude or any more of my thought process or any more of my time. Personally, I think that for those who, but I'd like to say to those of you who are watching this on YouTube, please think about this. I don't think it's necessarily a good idea to spend an enormous amount of time researching the things Q had said and what were missed. The important part is that 4 very important dates were missed for unsealing of indictments. And that's, I think, the most important thing we need to focus on, because that is draining the swamp. And that's what Q purported all along. That was the importance of trusting the plan, that it had to do with draining the swamp. And of course, those of us who follow the alt-right believed that truly meant dealing with the pedophilia network.
Yes.
Right.
So
Exactly. The Clinton cabal.
Yep.
Foundation.
The Clinton
Pizzagate.
Foundation, correct. Yep. So, but at any rate, I just want people on YouTube to know that, basically we've thought about this a lot. And I don't think there's any other conclusion that makes sense. Now, if we're wrong, we turn out to be wrong, we'll make another video and we'll try and figure out
Right.
where we went wrong with our, basically our assessment of Q. Um, so I think that that's fair play, but I also don't think we will have to make that video. So I
Okay.
just want to tell people that I really think that critical thought and, just sitting down and thinking about this, you'll probably come up with the same conclusions that we have here with our Q discussion today. And before
Right.
we end the video, I'll let anyone, all my YouTube stars are in here right now. American Man 1967, Ellie 1978, and I Am Vessel. And if you guys have any further thoughts you'd like to put in for anyone who's watching this video, or for anyone on your channels, now's the time.
Okay, I'll
Who's
go
first?
I'll go
Yeah,
first. I think, whoever's watching this, um, you know, it's just a fact that we need to not blindly follow anyone, or even if you're all seeing, follow anyone. You are supposed to question everything, no matter how, uh, positive it may be. Um, in fact, I'd be more skeptical the more positive it is. So, anyhow, I just want to say that while good things have come out, people, especially when referring to Pizzagate, a lot of people, looked into that and saw that it was a real thing. While I think eventually it would have came out, that I think that that's one good thing that came out of it. But good things come out of even the most horrible, horrible disasters. So I just think everyone needs to use their own discernment and logic, do their own research. Um, and I think that's what's most important here, not to be a follower, and to use discernment. And that's basically all I have to say.
Go ahead, Vessel.
I just got something quick. Like Ellie said, question everything. Um, Q does his cryptic messages in questions. Stop answering his cryptic messages when he should be telling you what's going on instead of leaving everybody confused. Another
As
thing
for
for
me,
critical thinking.
me, I think that if something seems like it's too good to be true, then it probably is. Critical thinking should be used in all aspects of every area of the truther community. Coming out, and it's getting big really quick. It's not seeing any or hitting any resistance. Human emotion, which is going to suck you in, that is probably fake and fraudulent.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to thank you all three for joining me today. And once again, American Man 1967, Ellie 1978, and I Am Vessel. You're all three very, very welcome to come back and do further roundtable discussions on important issues of the day. And I really appreciate all your insights into Q with me today. I hope you guys will come back sometime soon. Thank you again for joining us. And for those of you watching on YouTube, there'll be a link in the description below to the Discord channel if you decide that you want to come in and join the conversation and actually talk with us. I mean, actually, we have a very vibrant channel here. I hate that's pretty shameful self-promoting here, where American Man, Ellie, and Vessel are truly the stars here. But I thought I would throw that in. But I thank you all for joining us, and hopefully you all have a wonderful day. Those of you who get to see it before Christmas, have a wonderful Christmas. And remember, Jesus is the reason for the season.
Man,
Right, right.
Merry
Get
Christmas.
back in Christmas. And thank you for having us on, and providing this platform to, have an open dialogue about all possibilities and a different way to look at things, which is what I believe we need right now.
Yes, it's been a pleasure, TC, and I'm glad you had us all on, and I'm glad you were here.
All right. Thank you,
Yes.
guys. We'll see you all soon.
Peace out.
All
Okay.
right.